Jamie with Country Diggers here. Today we're going to be talking about milk glass. Now the other day I did Avon, and Avon is one of my favorite bottles, figural bottles, the Avon figurals. But milk glass is also one of my favorites. So we're going to be talking about that today. And here's my milk glass collection. And that's not all of them, I got more. But I've been putting them in this cabinet and I gotta make room for more. But anyway, we're talking about milk glass. Tara gave me these two right here. They're candy dishes. They're cute. I like them. But we're gonna be reading out of this book right here, Collector's Encyclopedia for Milk Glass, and it's by Betty and Bill Newbound. All right, today we're going to be talking about milk glass. I do not have any of the fancy pieces they talk about in this book. I do have a vase my mom gave me, and those two candy dishes Tara gave me, and the two milk glass swirl lamps that I dug. And the others, the ones you've seen in my cabinet, they were dug and by me, and some people gave them to me. So, and they contained like makeup and cold cream and stuff like that. But I do not have any real fancy pieces. But anyway, a smidgen of history. The concept of an opulent milk white glass is an ancient one. Milk glass was made as early as 1500 BC in Egypt, and perhaps even earlier. The Chinese produced milk glass snuff bottles and vases by 140 BC, and milk glass bottles and jars to contain spices and drugs have been found in Persian cities dating from about 635 AD. The famous Portland vase, which is dark cobalt blue glass with applied milk glass figures, dates to the 1st century AD. Probably the first milk glass produced in this country was made at Jamestown, Virginia, about 1609. It was part of the fanciful beads produced to use in trading with the Indians. In Italy, about 1612, a book by Antonio Neri was published that contained a formula for making milk white glass. The French produced milk glass from the mid-1820s. They called it opaline, and it was very successful. In England and in Venice, milk glass was used as a substitute for porcelain, but the quality was poor, and the decorations and colors garnish. A very white, brittle product called enamel glass was produced from the 1760s in England. Shapes were inspired by Chinese porcelain and were lavishly decorated with hand-painted flowers, transfer prints, and gold. It was referred to as Bristol glass. By the mid-1800s, milk glass was extremely popular, both in England and the United States. America's milk glass manufacturers seem to be concentrated in the East, and Pennsylvania having Atterbury and Company's White House Flint Glass Works, almost next door to Challinor, Challinor, Hogan and Company, and later Challinor, Taylor and Company, and across from Ripley and Company's Tremont Glass Works. Nearby were S. McKee and Company, McKee and Brothers, Fort Pitt Glass Works, Bakewell, Pears and Company, and a number of other glass houses. Wouldn't you have loved to visit those in those times? Yes, I would. Many of the glass house folks are interrelated, and the youngsters often spread their wings and open their own glass houses. The dolphin motif used for stems on candles, comports, etc., was an offshoot of the Empire style and introduced in the 1840s. The post-Civil War era found quaint animals and birds popular in all types of pressed glass. By the turn of the century, the Spanish-American War was commemorated with covered dishes formed as ships, and some with a bust of Admiral Dewey. After the laying of the transatlantic cable, various patterns using the cable motif were popular. Drapery patterns resembling the festoons used in mourning were introduced on memorial pieces for Lincoln and Garfield. The whole history of our country can be followed in its glass. The peak years of milk glass popularity in the United States were 1895 to 1910. But of course, many companies continue to produce milk glass today. That's why you find so much. There's an overabundance of milk glass. Many people don't like to dig it. I do. I love digging the milk glass. I just do. But anyway, let me get me a sip of water. All right. Telling old from new, the myths and the realities. You will hear about dealers and collectors with surefire methods of telling old milk glass from new. Old is opulent at the edges, they say. Yes, a lot of it is, but a lot of it isn't. And much new milk glass has that same opulence. Pressed old is 3 mold. Nonsense. The number of mold pieces used has nothing to do with age. Old has a seashell in the base. Again, this can be true of new glass as well as old. The shell is formed when the glass is poured too slowly, leaving a cooled heap on top of the mold, which of course is the bottom of the piece. It can also be caused when the mold is not warmed enough before pouring takes place. Old is painted, yes, and so is a lot of the new. In fact, when the person who wrote this book says, in fact, when I was enhancing and retouching some of the painted pieces in this book in order to show the patterns more clearly in the photographs, I found that acrylic paint in the iridescent bronze looked just like the old darkened gold paint used many years ago. Black light will make old glass fluorescent. Well, new custard, for instance, fluorescence the same as old. Black light will make locating cracks and repairs easier, but lately a new epoxy glue has come on the market that even the black light will not detect. So what do? First of all, do your homework. Read the books available on your collectible and the magazine articles. Join a club if you can. Much invaluable information is contained in those newsletter pages. Request catalogs from the places well known to sell reproductions and study them. Examine carefully the piece you are thinking of buying and look for marks. Sometimes they are hidden in unexpected places, such as inside the head of a covered hen dish. Visit the gift shops and other places where new glass is sold, and familiarize yourself with what is being produced today. Pick it up, feel it, and do the same with the old glass. Soon you will discover that your fingers have learned to tell old from new. Education and instinct will tell you what you need to know. Depend on them. Okay, now we know. Okay, what is a marriage and do I want one? No, I don't want a marriage myself. I prefer being single. But anyway, this is talking about bottles. Okay. When two parts of an item, such as a covered dish, are put together, but do not belong together, collectors call it a marriage. Sometimes the two parts are made by the same company, but the top may be on a split rib base. For instance, when it was originally produced only on a basket base. Two parts put together that were made by two different manufacturers is known as a mixed marriage. Often we will find covered dishes for sale where the lid fits very loosely or doesn't quite fit on the base opening at all. This is undoubtedly a marriage. For instance, Challoner Taylor lids will fit Westmoreland lids. Challoner Taylor lids will fit Westmoreland bases loosely. However, Westmoreland lids will not fit Challenger bases. Many Westmoreland covered hens were numbered on lids and bases. These numbers should match to get the perfect fit. Also, a lid and base should be the same color or shade of color. And you haven't lived until you try matching shades of white at a flea market on a sunny day. Salt and pepper shakers are tricky little devils too. Often found without lids, we have seen shakers labeled as ink bottles. One also runs across shakers with a small lamp burner attached and sold as a miniature lamp without its shade. Be careful, for many miniature lamps sold without shades are very likely a burner-added shaker. Then again, some covered pieces were originally made with two different lids or bases, such as the cannon on the snare drum, which has two bases, and the boar's head butter dish, which has a ribbed lid that fit onto the base just as the boar's head does. Of course, you will have read the books and done your homework, so that shouldn't bother you. For some reason or other, lids for covered animal dishes seem more available than bases. I did find a duck. I think it was ceramic, other than a duck top that goes on a dish. I think it was more ceramic than milk glass, though. But anyway, for some reason or other, lids for covered animal dishes seem more available than bases. I have quite a collection of bottomless pets myself. Some dealers will buy all the tops and bottoms they find and just put together whatever will more or less fit willy-nilly. If the combination pleases you, and above all, it's cheap, go ahead and buy it. But don't pay the price of a covered dish with the correct lid on the correct base. If you get it cheaply, someday you may find the right base lid and have a wonderful piece for your collection. Okay, now, where are the molds? Westmoreland Glass Company of Grapeville, Pennsylvania, was from 1890 to 1985. One of the most prolific producers of fine quality milk glass in the United States. When they closed in 1985, there were several sales and auctions held, and the wonderful old molds owned by Westmoreland were scattered to the winds. Imperial Glass Corporation of Bel Air, Ohio, founded in 1901, closed their doors in 1984. Before that time, they had purchased many of the old Cambridge Glass Company molds. When Imperial closed, much of the same thing happened to their molds as happened to Westmoreland molds. They were purchased and are being used by a number of present-day glass houses. So, since so many new pieces now on the market are made using Westmoreland and Imperial molds, we thought it might be a wise idea to give you some information on who purchased these molds at closing time. Our list may not be completed, and by this time, some of the molds may have changed hands yet again. But every bit of information the collector can obtain is worthwhile. Of course, mold switching from factory to factory is nothing new. In the photo sections of this book, you will find the phrase mold originally produced in many places. And an example, let's take beaded jewel or lace and dewdrop. Beaded jewel was created by the George Duncan Glass Company of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and made in clear glass only until Duncan went out of business in 1902. Cooperative Glass Company of Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, purchased the molds and produced milk glass pieces under their 1902 line until 1929. The molds then went to the Phoenix Glass Company of Monica, Pennsylvania. Phoenix made the pattern for several years in milk glass. Plus, they painted sections of the pieces in various colors, which makes it easier for collectors to recognize the Phoenix pieces. Mr. H.M. Tuska, a glass jobber, purchased the molds from Phoenix and then sold them to John Kemple in 1946. Kemple then made lace and dewdrop in milk glass, blue, and honey amber. After John Kemple's death in 1970, the molds went to the Wheaton Village Glass House in Millville, New Jersey. They produced a number of pieces in various colors. Most molds have long histories, such as outlined above, and often makes certain identification of the maker of an item very difficult and sometimes next to impossible. There are companies such as L.G. Wright, New Martinsville, West Virginia, who do not make glass themselves but own thousands of molds from which they contract glass to be produced by various glass houses. This tends to cloud the issue even further, as Wright purchased molds from sources all over the world, or simply copied them with or without subtle variations, switched parts to make their item distinctive. Well, that was interesting. Maybe I'll go into more of it later, because there's some more in here. But I do like the milk glass. I know a lot of people don't for some reason. They just leave it. When they dig it up, they leave it there. I don't know why. It boggles my mind. Anyway, we're going out Wednesday with Tara, and we'll have a different video coming up. So hope y'all enjoy this. For now, see you soon. Bye.